Welcome to App Apéritif. 15 minutes with a specialty cocktail, a delicious nibble, and an iOS app dev lesson. This week, Flying Start presents a beginner's guide to Xcode while we enjoy Tarte Flambée and Kheer. Hi, my name is Karen Burns and I'm the founder of Flying Start. Thanks so much for joining me again today on App Apéritif. 15 minutes with a specialty cocktail, a delicious nibble, and an iOS app dev lesson. This week, we're taking a beginner's tour of Xcode, and Xcode is the environment you're going to be using to develop your apps in Swift. So I'm really excited to show you around Xcode. And also thanks everyone for all the great comments that I've gotten so far about learning how to code. It really makes me happy because that is Flying Start's mission. We want to develop our community. So it's super wonderful to hear that this is helping people. So thanks so much. Also, on top of learning all about Xcode today, we're going to be making a really great Alsatian tart. It's called Tarte Flambée. And most important, we're going to be drinking a Kheer. Kheer is white wine with creme de cassis. Although for this, I got to tell you, I didn't have creme de cassis, so I used homemade creme de mûre, which is blackberry liqueur. It's blackberry liqueur. So I took some blackberries that I had in the garden last year, and I macerated them in a jar with lots of liquor. And so now it tastes like blackberry liqueur, which is fabulous. It worked out perfectly for the Kheer. But if you don't have blackberry liqueur, a Kheer is traditionally made with creme de cassis. So I encourage you to get creme de cassis. Anyway, we are all about coding today and we're all about Xcode. So thanks again so much for joining me and I will see you soon. We're going to walk through Xcode, which is our integrated development environment where we're going to develop our apps in Swift. And to fuel up for coding, we return to France for Tarte Flambée with the classic Kheer. So let's get started with our Tarte Flambée. As you can see here, I'm buttering the crust. We're going to pre-bake this. We've got our mise en place. We're going to slice our onions very thin, julienne onions. We've also got bacon that we're going to cut. We've got some sour cream, fromage blanc, which is not pictured here, and an egg yolk. Those are the only ingredients you need for this recipe. It comes from the Alsace region of France, and you really cannot go wrong with caramelized onions and bacon, that is for sure. So the trick to caramelizing onions nicely is to cook them over a low heat, nice and slow. And then you're going to add the bacon. So you add the bacon after you're done cooking the caramelized onions, and then you cook it up a little bit more. The tart's going to go back into the oven, so you don't need to cook the bacon until it's crispy, just until it's cooked. So you take the mixture off of the flame and you drain it. Remember, we put a ton of butter in, and also you have all the fat from the bacon. We've pre-baked our crust, and now it's time for us to make our royale. So we've got our fromage blanc. We're going to add the sour cream and the egg yolk and salt and pepper. Mix it together very well. You can use a whisk or a spoon. I've used a whisk here. Then we're going to top the pre-baked dough with our royale. Just sprinkle it on, cover the whole shell, and then you're going to take your caramelized onions and bacon that have been draining. You're going to spread them evenly on top of the tart and pop it in the oven. You're going to bake it for about 10 minutes at 400 degrees, and it's delicious. Let's get started with our Kheer, shall we? So as I told you earlier about my homemade blackberry liqueur, I have that right here. You put a twist of lemon, add some blackberry liqueur, or in your case, I hope you're using creme de cassis. And then we're going to top it off with white wine. I like the Chardonnay from Macon Viage, from the Burgundy region of France. All right, so we've got our food, we've got our drink on. Now are we ready for Xcode? I think we are. Let's open up our book, App Development with Swift. We are on lesson 1.5, which is all about Xcode. Xcode is the IDE, the integrated development environment, in which you are going to develop your apps. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to navigate Xcode, how to work with your projects, how to start projects, how to develop projects in Xcode, how to use the navigator, the different editors, and the debugging area. We've had a little bit of experience with the console and the debugging area when we did our labs in the beginning, the first few lessons. However, this will be fully in the Xcode environment, and so you'll really get the experience of using the console and the compiler and the debugging area in Xcode with this lesson. I'd like you first to go through and really study the vocabulary. There's a lot, I know, for this lesson, but it's really important that you're clear about these things before we get started, because as we get deeper into Xcode, the next chapter coming up is quite a bit more intense, and so you'll need to be quite familiar with these with this vocabulary. I also highly recommend that you look through the resources, the Xcode help, revisit the overview, and the introduction to Xcode video from WWDC 2016 is an excellent place for you to start as well. It's a little old, but it's still applicable to what's going on with Xcode today. There's a couple things, of course, that have been updated, but it's a great way for you to familiarize yourself with this IDE if you haven't used this, or if you've used another. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up Xcode and we're going to create a new project. So let's go to Xcode and click Create a New Project. You're going to choose a template. We are going to use a single view app. So let's see, the product name. Oh, let's see, we're going to try and do split screen here. It might not work until we fill out the pop-up window. So let's see, not available. So let's go back. We'll just do it like this for now. So we need to add the product name to our project. So the product name is going to be Getting Started. So put that in there. For the organization identifier, once you become part of the Apple Developer Program, you will get your own identifier. You can do that through developer.apple.com. But for now, go ahead and leave it blank. Go ahead and click Next. And it will ask if you want to create a Git repository on your Mac, and just go ahead and unclick that. Then click Create. Now you're in the workspace. So you're in an Xcode workspace. Let's do our split screen again. So if you click the book, you click the green circle in the upper left-hand corner, and it'll ask you where you want to tile it. If you want to do full screen, tile left, tile right. So we're going to tile that to the left, and we'll tile Xcode to the right. And let's see if we can get this. Yes. Oh, good. Excellent. So here we are in our Xcode workspace. And so the Xcode workspace is made up of 5 different areas. Starting on the left-hand side, you will have your navigator area, which includes all 8 of your different navigators: project, source control, symbol, find, issue, test navigator, debug navigator, your breakpoint navigator, and your report navigator. In the center, as soon as we open the view control file here or any of these files, you'll see the editor area. The editor area is where you're going to be doing most of your work. This is where you're putting in all of your Swift code. At the very top, you have the toolbar area. The toolbar area includes everything you need to maneuver around your project. You have the build and run button, which is the sideways arrow, the stop button, the assistant editor, the standard editor, the toggle area, the scheme, the version editor, the library. The library is very important. The library is where all of your code snippets are located. At the bottom of your window is the 4th section, and that's the debug area. The debug area is where you can see the variables view. It's where the console is. You can show these or hide these by using the screen buttons at the very top right of your of the screen. And finally, on the right-hand side, you have the utility area. The utility area is where you'll see all the details of anything that you click. You can adjust like your elements of your user interface. You can adjust position, size, color, text, different things like that here in the utilities area. So now we're going to decide, are we going to make an iPad app? Are we making an iOS app? Are we making a Mac OS app, a Watch OS app? All of those decisions need to be made, and those can be made in the deployment info area. So to get to that area, what we're going to do is go to the navigation area here, and we're going to click the name of our project, which is Getting Started. That's our project title. And we have all of these tabs that we can use up at the top here. So we can't see the one I'm looking for. So I'm going to go up here to the right-hand corner. I'm going to hide that screen, and we want to go to General. So we're going to go to our General tab. We can open that back up now. We want our General tab. This is where we have the name of our project. You remember that from the beginning. And here's our deployment info. So it shows which type of device we want to use. It also tells you which version of iOS you're going to be using. So for us, we're developing for the most current version. You can develop for any version you want to, although it is best practice to do the most current version. It is also going to talk about the device orientation right here. So you can decide which or how you want your app to look when the device is tilted to the left or to the right. And let's go to the storyboard now. After we did all of our deployment info, we're going to go to the storyboard. So the storyboard is the visual for your app. So this is actually a visual of the phone. This will be what your app will look like. So if you were going to make an iPad app, it would show up with the iPad here. We are making an app for iPhone SE. Right up here is where your devices are. So you choose, and we are doing the iPhone SE 2nd generation. So this is our storyboard right here. Anything we add, labels, buttons, remember the library up here under the plus button. Anything we add will show up here. This is our entire user interface, our storyboard. And so we have all of our different screens that are connected. Our assets, which are over here, is where we're going to store all of those things, like our images and our buttons and our icons, and all of those things go right here in the assets. And the info plist. The info plist is the information property list, and it keeps track of all of the properties for your app. You don't need to do anything with this for this particular app. You will look at that in the future, but this is where it is. Every app in Xcode has an info plist. All right, so now it's time for keyboard shortcuts. So we have all of these different keyboard shortcuts you can use for Xcode. You can do Command R, which is run and build. You can do building the project alone. You can do a whole bunch of different things by using the keyboard shortcuts. By the way, building and running the project will bring up your app simulator, which I'll show you at another time. I think we're going to show that next week. There's also an Xcode keyboard cheat sheet that you can use that has references for you, and you can look at that too. All right, so let's go back. We're going to go now to the preferences. That's right. We go up here to Xcode. We click Xcode and we go to Preferences. And the preference area will bring up all of these different, here, let me move this out of the way so we can get this. This will bring up all these different options that you can, all the different ways you can set up Xcode to your own preferences. For example, you can use light mode, dark mode. You can change the way the text looks. You can change the way the keys, all of this stuff, the contrast. You can change the way Xcode navigates, how it text edits, the source control, the accounts. I have to sign in again, as you see. All of that stuff is available right here in Preferences. So you can change all the preferences and you can make Xcode exactly the way you want it to be. So now it's time for you to take the test. I've already taken my test here, but it is time for you to do your review questions. So go ahead and take your review questions. You can see the answer to the first one right here. Where's the build and run button located in Xcode? It is located on the toolbar. so you can go ahead and get the first one right. So go ahead. Don't forget to take the quiz. For this, there isn't a lab. For this exercise, there isn't a lab. However, I highly recommend that you read through next week's work, which is running and debugging an app in Xcode, because that chapter is pretty intense. So go ahead and read through that. Again, that's section 1.6, building, running, and debugging an app. And I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you next Friday on App Apéritif. Just a reminder, all the resources for today's lesson, as well as past lessons, are located at getaflyingstart.com, App Apéritif. Thanks for joining Flying Start and me, Karen Burns, to learn all about Xcode, have some Tarte Flambée and a Kir, and we'll see you next week on App Apéritif.